It is now 6:30, and I'm going to call this meeting into order for the March 20th Redevelopment Commission meeting. If staff will please take roll call.
Tyler Hudgens,
Present.
Ryan Hamilton, Bo Bigelow,
Here.
Tyler Jones,
Here.
Peter Shaka. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Having a quorum, we'll go ahead and move into our communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Seeing that we don't have any requests to speak tonight, we will go ahead and move forward into our administrative items. We will consider approval of our meeting minutes from the February 20th, 2019 meeting. Do I have a motion at this time to approve that?
I motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of February 20th, 2019.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Having a second, we will go ahead and take a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. This motion passes for the meeting minutes of February 20th, 2019. Now, we will go ahead and discuss our study session tonight. So tonight we are reviewing for the Redevelopment Commission. We will hear 2 study items tonight. The commission may provide comment, but no motion for approval to be held at this time. If staff would please come forward for the study session discussion of DR 18178, Scott Residences.
Thank you, Chairman and Commission members. Ashley McDonald with the Planning Department, here to talk about the Scott Residence. This is a duplex in the downtown. As you can see on the aerial map here, this is located on the north side of Vaughn Street, east of Gilbert Road, Elm Street in this location. Oh, you can't see my... Okay. Elm Street is located to the west, and then condominiums to the north, and then the lot immediately to the west, interestingly, is part of that condominium project as well. Recently, you've seen the Aspire Heritage Village, or Aspire Heritage, that is on that large remaining piece farther to the east. And then prior to that, we've seen one other duplex development come on this same street. So starting to see some action in this area. As you may recall, in 2017, the Town Council adopted some new regulations for the Heritage District, specifically for our multifamily zoning district. So we're really excited to see that applicants are taking advantage of some of those allowances that we've provided in this overlay area. This applicant is doing the same. They are providing the minimum setbacks required for the Heritage District and really able to take advantage of some of the space in order to develop this duplex product. Each unit is providing 2,100 square feet of livable space in 3 stories. There's private open space located at each level, so something that they've done quite well. It's located or accessed off of Vaughn Avenue with a shared primary drive, and then there's 2-car garage for each unit. They're providing on-street parking, meets our parking requirements for guest parking as well as parking for the unit itself. Because this is multifamily zoning district, the parcel can't be subdivided. They could do a condo plat in the future, and all of the open space around has to be common open space. So the applicant did have to alter their design to remove some walls that created kind of individual backyards, just because that isn't allowed within this zoning district. So they've provided some unique metal features kind of at the center of the lot to delineate some space, provide some privacy, but still meet the intent of the code. In terms of landscaping, they are meeting minimum landscape requirements, providing mulga, acacia trees, live oak, Chinese elm. There's some existing trees on site that they are maintaining, for example, that Palo Verde at the rear, and then adding another to accent the site. As I mentioned, there is the rear patio with a metal trellis, as well as planter pots on those back patios. In terms of the elevations in the staff report packet that was received or submitted, I talked about some of the items that staff had been going back and forth with the applicant on, and they have provided some updated elevations that are different from what you received in your packet. And these are some of the things that I'm looking for feedback on. In the packet that you were provided, they had hardy board in the front, some other gray accents that staff felt maybe didn't translate as well as we would like and didn't correlate to a contemporary design that they were going for. So on this rendering, you can see that they've removed that hardy board. They still have some inset panels that are just stucco. So some feedback if I think staff is of the opinion that we like it without the hardy board, just making sure that the Redevelopment Commission agrees with that. And then we've also asked them to, in some way, identify where the front door is. The front door is tucked back on the side, and so they've added these arches that you can see on either side that kind of indicate to a pedestrian that this is the direction that you head to get to that front door. So we hope that that helps a little bit with that comment. On the side, you can see that they removed some of the hardy board panels as well, which staff thinks really kind of simplifies the design, makes a more contemporary building rather than having these kind of odd shapes that really didn't relate to what existed. So some feedback if you prefer this design or what was in your packet. And I have those, the previous elevations at the end of my PowerPoint if anybody wants to take a look at those as well. And then in terms of the rear elevations, not a lot of significant changes here. But again, staff seeking some input if stucco might translate better than the gray hardy board that you see on that upper floor. In terms of colors and materials, they have a standing seam metal roof, which really speaks to that contemporary design. The hardy board, again, metal railings, CMU wainscoting on the bottom, again, to that contemporary look, as well as the frosted glass garage doors. So just feedback again on the overall building design if you have any questions or concerns about it, and then the hardy board in particular.
Comments, questions?
Chairman, I'll start. Overall design, I like the design. I agree with staff as far as the hardy board's concerned. I don't know if it's dispositive as far as being in or out of design guidelines or integrated with the rest of the Heritage District. I don't know that it's that, again, dispositive as far as in or out, but my personal preference is that. But overall design I like, and I prefer the updated.
Great. Thank you.
Excuse my voice. I apparently am going through puberty again or something because I've been squeaking all day and I've been losing it. So I like the hardy board. There are a few projects that do have it, but you know, either way, I think it looks good. It does look contemporary. It does look modern with the smooth finish on it. And I like the detail, especially on the stucco, that it was going to be a smooth stucco. It wasn't going to be a Santa Fe or anything super crazy on that. And obviously, I was looking at the back of it thinking it was the front, and then after you pointed out that detail that it was actually reversed, that's when I realized where the front doors were. So I'm really glad those arches were put into place for that. So, but overall, yeah, it's different, it's unique, and I like it.
And I'm actually going to echo Commissioner Bigelow's comments. I do like the hardy board, but I do like the updated design with the stucco in that it does simplify what was there before. I think there's a couple places that might be good to keep the hardy board, but keep most of it removed. I know the side for me was really intense, so I like that it's been simplified. But much like on the back, I don't know if you can pull that up real quick. Yeah, so the hardy board that's up there on the top. Now go to the front. It would be cool, I think, to incorporate the hardy board again on the front in that portion. That's just me speaking. Applicant can decide what they like to do. But I did like the hardy board. I think it brings in a good feel. I just think it was a little overdone on the first draft. And then the hardy board on the side elevation.
On the original or the new elevation?
You can show the original. So I thought this was too much of the hardy board, but I think keeping it how you guys have updated it looks a lot better. But I don't mind the hardy board on that center portion on the second floor there where the windows are. So other than that, I think overall the updated design has increased a lot. I'm just saying from my perspective, some hardy board isn't bad.
From my side, I'd have to agree. I think we should have some hardy board to kind of break it up a little bit. I think something in between these two is probably the right thing. And I think some of these larger sections, as pointed out, I think are a good idea just to kind of give some texture to the building other than stucco.
Chairman and commission members, if I may, do you like the gray hardy board, or do you think that kind of a field color of the building to add some texture, but still keeping with that building might help?
It's hard to say because I know you have the color palette on here of the stuccos you're using and you have them printed, but what's actually here and what actually is put on is always very different. I personally don't mind the gray. I think, especially since it is going to be pulling detail to it, I wouldn't want it to pop any more than it is. And what I will say though about the hardy board, especially on that side one, is it corrugated steel on the newer version you guys have? You have the smooth stucco and then corrugated steel running vertically, it looks like. Just personal opinion, I think the hardy board does look a lot better just in that area and then keeping it simple. But then again on that kind of looks like is that like a salmon pink color?
It's kind of beige.
Beige,
Yeah,
okay,
it's-
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how detailed and gritty we're getting, but yeah, those are my 2 cents.
I don't mind the gray. I wouldn't mind seeing other alternatives and just being able to see what that looks like. But I think if you don't overdo the hardy board, I think the gray is fine. But if they want to bring forward other alternatives, that's okay too. You have anything, Tyler?
No, I agree. I like the contrasting colors, so I would be in favor of keeping gray or something that contrasts the stucco color.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you. We'll go ahead and move forward into study session discussion on DR 18-221 HD South. Staff, when you're ready.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Bubenheim. I'm a planner here at Gilbert. The site is for HD South, so it's an existing historical museum. I'm sure most of you are all familiar with it. They are expanding the site, so they are leaving the existing museum building. They're just doing an update to the paint, and then they are keeping, let me go ahead and maximize this. So they're keeping on the southwest corner, there's an existing storage building, and then they're removing some ramadas on the site to incorporate a new 6,500 square foot building. It'll be a multi-purpose room with a kitchen and bathrooms and conference rooms, so it's going to be used for expansion into the museum as well as events. There's a courtyard around the center in between the two buildings that they'll be redesigning and updating the landscaping, and as I said, they'll be repainting the main museum building. There's also a project going on with Gilbert Leadership Class number 27 right now that is going to be along the northeast of the museum building that's existing. So it's not shown on the site plan currently, but we are asking in future submittals that that be shown. That is going to be approved administratively, so it's not part of this scope, but you'll see it at the next meeting. So in green, I highlighted the new building. There's an existing parking lot on site, and there's one access off of Elliott Road. That parking lot doesn't accommodate the size of people coming to the museum, so there's also a shared parking agreement to the west with the Gilbert Public Schools so that they can have adequate parking on the site. This is the landscape plan. Their main focus is on that courtyard and updating that to be a more prominent feature with water features and landscape planters. And there's also landscape added to the north side of the two buildings. Staff has comments of trying to follow the heritage approved landscape palette more closely. So they use some of the landscape plants and materials, but not a majority. So as seen in Aspire, we were asking that they follow it closely and use some accent plants that aren't in that list. As well as the west side of the building, there is a required landscape setback, so we're asking for additional landscaping on that side as well. The courtyard will have two entrances, so one is from the west, just south of the new building, and the second entrance is along the north in between the two buildings. Those will have pavers that will be donated for the museum. For the colors and materials of the building, they are focusing on the mission style, so the main body will be this frosty white, which will also be mimicked for the main museum building, and they'll have a secondary color for the new building. They're trying to pull materials and ideas from buildings surrounding the site. So the Founders Finish CMU block is being pulled from the Gilbert Public Schools building. You can see that on the bottom 2 elevations where they're breaking up the massing by using that brick. They're pulling from the main entrance of the museum, the 3 archways. They're using that as the main entrances into the courtyards that you can see on the north elevation. So that will be seen from Elliott Road. And they're using 1 arch as the main passageway, and 2 of the other arches will have green screens. They're pulling from the east elevation, you'll see that's really the main focus, and that will be in the courtyard, so it won't be seen from the public right-of-way, but that is pulling from archways on the museum and their sculpted columns, as well as the windows. The long tapered windows are from the Gilbert Public School buildings. For comment-wise, there's a 3D model, so you can kind of see how it's interacting with the Gilbert Historical Museum. Their intent is to complement the building, not fully copy the mission-style architecture. So we'd like comments on what your opinion is, if you feel like they are complementing it, or if they need to pull some other components. There was one comment from staff that possibly at the corners of the building, to kind of round it out a little bit, that they could pull those stepped columns. They have a lot of different steps in the parapet of the existing building that are very ornate, so not copying that, but there are some that are less ornate that just have a simple step at the corner, if you might want to look into incorporating those. And this is a elevation study just showing how they were trying to pull it into the museum building. There's floor plan if you have any questions on that. For lighting, the comments we had were to look a little bit more into the lighting. They have 1 light wall sconce proposed, but it's not necessarily meeting the mission style architecture, so we're wanting to see if you had any comments on that as well, if you think it's fine or you think it should try to look at a different type of lighting. But those are the input that we're looking for. So just overall articulation of the building and how it is looking next to the museum, the materials, and then the landscape palette.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, I'll start off. Just a quick question. First off, I do agree that it does need to be updated and painted and all that, so I'm really excited about the project. And I know you're asking more from a design perspective, but just out of curiosity to kind of help go along with that, I know these are multi-purpose rooms that are being added on, but what are they going to be used for? Like, what types of events or situations, or who's going to be using them?
Right. The museum, they can use them for extra exhibits when they come in. They also rent out the space for events. Some people have small social events or even small weddings,
Okay,
possibly.
so it might be wedding venue type things. and this and
They
that.
do rent it out to the public to be used so that they can have a income that comes in with the museum too. So it can be used by the museum, or they rent it out to the public.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to know.
One question from my side is just looking and maybe just how it gets printed, but in terms of the color, so this frosty white, to me, it looks like it has a kind of a blue sheen to it. And so I know we're going for kind of mission style, so I assume that that's been taking a closer look at that to make sure it's the right kind of shade of white here, but it's just something that kind of stuck out a little bit to me. And then, of course, I mean, I think it's always cool if there's opportunities for finding ways for interesting murals, especially given the purpose of this building. So, allowing enough space where something like that could be done in a tasteful way would be kind of fun for what the purpose of the building is.
Thank you. I do want to add the Gilbert Leadership class. Their improvements on the northeast corner of the building is a pergola and a wall, and part of that wall is going to have a mural that will be incorporated for the museum.
Yeah, the school building next door, honestly, that's a really cool color white. I don't know how far off it is or anything, but I know you want to pull in stuff from surrounding buildings, so really love the way the one looks next door to it.
I think it was great. I'm excited. I like the idea of pulling the surrounding buildings. I personally would echo the staff sentiment of a little, maybe just a little, not a lot, but a little bit more integration with the mission style, but not a lot. I love how it looks now, but probably the direction I would err on if I were comment, but otherwise I think it looks terrific.
And then also, I'm excited about it. I think this is going to be a great step for the museum, and I really like what they're doing here. I appreciate the design. I love the gates on the side and on the front. I think that adds a new look to it, which is going to be great. I agree with the commissioner's comments as well. And the only other thing I would encourage is just that they would look closer to the plant palette that we have to keep the consistency with what we're going for in the downtown. And so that'd be my only encouragement in future things that come before us.
All right, thank you.
Could I ask one more question? Just maybe I missed this, but Stephanie, in that courtyard there where you show several, and there's probably 15 different little white circles there in the center. What exactly are those?
Yes, those white circles are tables. All right, so they're not part of the plant palette.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Is that area going to be public use 24/7, or the gates open and close?
I will have to double check with the applicant. I don't believe it's going to be open to the public 24/7. I think it would have to be used for either the events or if you're attending the museum.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else, thank you, staff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, that'll conclude our study session. We're going to go ahead and move into communications. And at this time, there's no report from the chair. Do we have a report from our council liaison?
Just a couple of thoughts. It's been very busy downtown. We have opened the garage, and I'm sure you're aware of that. It is being used. And if you get a chance, and I'm sure you've seen our new architectural feature that Joe has put up down there, which there's mixed feelings about that. Personally, I love it. I think it's going to be an icon for the downtown at some point, but there's a lot of activity going on down there. And just this last week, there were a lot of public types of events and things that were happening. So, and I know there are more things coming up, even in the downtown and outside of the downtown, Kapow, the Global Village Festival, and things like that. Just pay attention to the website to keep updated on some of those things. But I think you should pat yourselves on the back for some great work, things that have happened in the downtown. It's looking very good, even though there's a lot of work going on down there. It's looking very good.
Personally, I love the gopher too, and that burrito there is killer. It's really good. So, any report from our commissioners? None? Do we have a report from staff?
Nope, no comments tonight.
Okay, with that concludes our communications, and I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.